Just a day ago, we brought you the story about housing wars in San Francisco and the fights between the haves and the have-nots there. In the Netherlands, the Dutch have a housing crisis of their own. As America's Tonight's Lori Jane Gliha discovered, sometimes the best solutions come by thinking outside the box.
This is the heaviest object in the house. It's made of stone. I don't know exactly how much is it, but it's very heavy.
From the basement bathroom of her East Amsterdam home, Alejandra Morales explains that her house was built around her bathtub.
There's the water right there.
Yes, you can see the water, and sometimes I see people swimming or with a canoe here.
All it takes is one peek out of the bathroom window to understand why the weighty fixture makes her house tilt a little to one side. Alejandra's house floats on water.
Sometimes it can really shake. And because it's attached, it will shake not like this, but sometimes it will do this because it cannot move further. So yeah, sometimes it can be funny. This is the kitchen. We spend a lot of time here, obviously. And
do you ever get dizzy? Because I see the water kind of going like this. And does that make you kind of feel seasick ever?
No. Sometimes, no, not really. No, not at all. I like the water. And this is the dining room. And here we gather with the family in the evenings most of the time, and in the summer we open the windows and we barbecue, and also the dogs are always around and we just feed them.
The home is one of 75 similar structures built along a series of artificial islands just outside the center of the Netherlands' capital city. It's a kind of floating village that might be a model for low-lying communities everywhere, increasingly threatened by volatile weather, storm surges, or just rising sea levels. Amsterdam has more than 60 miles of canals. It's also packed with people. The Netherlands is one of the most densely populated places in the world. About 60% of the population lives below sea level. Space has always been scarce, so more than 10 years ago, a group of architects and engineers began brainstorming a way to utilize the water that surrounds them. That's when they came up with this.
This project was a very big challenge for me. I wasn't anxious at all. I was curious how we could do that.
Marlies Romer is the architect who designed what is now an entire community of floating houses. It took about 7 years of research, engineering, and designing. Prices start around $460,000 and go up to $780,000. Builders carefully constructed the houses on land, first pouring a concrete block as the base of each structure to lower the home's center of gravity. Since a tugboat would ultimately transport the homes to their final floating places, developers had to make them narrow enough to squeeze through a tight canal passageway.
They go one at one time through the lock. This is the last tiny little bit when they go to the side. And the lock is 7 meters wide, and the widest house is 6.50 meters.
Once the individual homes made it through the canal lock, construction crews connected some of them in groups to increase their stability in the water. Now they're loosely anchored in shallow water to a pair of poles driven deep into the ground.
These rings, which you can see there, they can go up and down. So it can move 60 centimeters in this case.
As the weather changes and the water levels rise and fall with rain, the houses rise and fall as well. Romer says the design has been an inspiration to other countries, including the United States. But making a neighborhood like this one work requires creative thinking.
You have to think about where do you park the cars? You don't have streets, for example. Where do you make enough storage? In Holland we have bikes, so you see people putting their bike on the jetties. It's also an urban question, so you have to make a good urban plan.
So this is the top floor of your house? Is this the place where you get the most light?
Yes. This is this is always also a little bit warmer than the rest of the house.
So how many floors total is this place?
It's 3 floors.
And on the bottom floor is?
And the bedrooms and the bathroom.
One of the challenges of a floating house, childproofing. Alejandra has a 2-year-old daughter.
Because she cannot swim yet, she's too small. It's the only thing that worries me every time she goes outside. I can't avoid it. I have to be very careful, always hand by hand, and just very careful. She cannot just go outside when I open the door alone. She can't.
Despite her concerns, her partner Leo says it feels like a vacation home year-round.
My two most favorite features are, first of all, that you're living on the water. I mean, it's very nice. Like in the summer, you can just swim here. The other thing what I really love about the house is like all the windows. I mean, it's like glass on both sides, so you have like a great view. And so even when it's not nice weather, I think it still looks spectacular.
Another potential downside, if too many people are in the house, it starts to sink. Leo remembers a party when more than 80 people were at his house.
We had to tell people like stay on this side, stay on that side.
So is that interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, you really had to be conscious of how much weight was in your house. I mean, did you notice that with the water, the levels outside the window, anything?
People on the outside could see that the house was a bit deeper in the water, and it moved. It was a bit more shaky than usual.
Alejandra and Leo are excited about growing their family in this innovative neighborhood and anxious to see which other waterside communities might eventually hop on board.
That's America Tonight's Lori Jane Gliha reporting to us from Amsterdam.